Hello friends, Malay Panpadith here, CEO of the SOAR Community Network and co-founder of the SOAR Community Nebula. As you know by now, our goal is to highlight 1,000 champions of change and community builders, and today I'm delighted to bring to you Tim Cywinski. Thank you so much for being with us and being a part of this Nebula initiative.
Thank you, Molly. This is a real pleasure and honor for me. I'm really grateful that you thought of me for this, and it's such a wonderful thing that you're doing. So thanks again.
You're very welcome. Well, you know, there's a reason why we chose you to be a part of it. So thank you for doing all the great work that you're doing in terms of community building.
No problem.
Can you share with our community a little bit more about your background and what you're currently working on in the world right now?
Sure. So the short version is I'm just some dude who strives to share my political experience and knowledge in a way that empowers people who are working towards a greater goal and greater causes. Professionally, I've been involved in politics, mostly in Virginia, but a little bit nationally since 2008 as a campaign worker. I've also been a community organizer / activist, and now I'm really just a public advocate. I just finished doing nonprofit lobbying for 4 years in the Virginia General Assembly, which is our Congress, but only for Virginia. And now I currently serve as the communications coordinator for the Sierra Club Virginia chapter. So we're trying to protect the planet, protect people. As a passion project, I also actively seek to get more people involved in the state political process, because right now that's where I think we can do the most good, and people have a great deal of power that they may not realize. And that looks like me providing advocacy trainings based off the knowledge and experience that I have to numerous community groups, civic organizations, college classes, and just generally anyone who wants to learn more and has a passion for amplifying the voices of people who generally tend to be not heard in our political system. I also teach practical political communications for people in underrepresented and underserved areas who seek to run for office.
Is that all you do?
I have a couple hobbies, but yeah, that's pretty much all I do.
That's great. Well, I also want to highlight the fact that we met at Network Nova's Women's Summit this year, where you spoke at one of the breakout workshops, and where I was also a speaker. And what I found really powerful about your session was that it's all about empowering other people to remember that their talents, their knowledge, their passion, the things that matter to them can truly change these policies. And we forget that because we push aside and we say, I don't want to get into politics, right? Because it's just too messy. But if we don't get into politics, if we don't show up at the General Assembly, if we don't lobby for things, then who is really creating the shifts that are needed and required to change these policies? Right. Or to expand the policies. And I think that it was really a reminder for me as well. So I just wanted to say that you're a wonderful speaker, but your purpose, your mission to help us remember that we are the people. Like that's what the Constitution, that's who the Constitution was written for.
Yeah, no, thank you for saying that. That means a lot. And honestly, pretty much anyone who attended that event at Network Nova, the Women's Summit for Political Engagement, would be also a great interview subject. They're the people who really inspire me. But you're right. I think we've gotten into this space where people feel so intimidated to get involved, like they have to be invited or they have to be an expert or they have to get permission. When in reality, if we really want to forge a better future, people can and should be their own champions. And I'm of the belief that more people involved is the way we make it better.
It's fantastic. So now let's talk about the champions in your life who have helped you to become this person that you are today, this advocate for more involvement in our political arena. So is there anybody that you'd like to highlight or a story you'd like to tell about a mindful, conscious, loving, compassionate soul that shifted you?
Sure. So, well, my life has been a collection of experiences of people who've just demonstrated empathy and compassion and just a yearning to help people, specifically target on me even in times when I didn't deserve it. From everything from my parents who have always been supportive, especially my mom, who's just so passionate and intelligent. I know that transferred onto me, the passion side of it. And I should also mention patient, because as she described my upbringing, Tim was such an easy child to take care of, and then he turned 13. So definitely have to talk about her and how she was just an inspiration in so many different ways, and the sacrifices that she had made for me to make sure that I could be I could strive and reach success in my life in whatever way that looked like. In terms of other people who are outside the family nucleus, the pursuit of my education has been kind of an abstract story. I was not a good student in high school. I didn't see the point. I also grew up in rural Virginia. It was hard for me to be connected to the social fabric of everything. I think I was living in a bubble, and what ultimately happened was did not do well. I did get into campaign and political work for the first year after school, which I value, but then started just doing working blue collar jobs. And at some point I went to church. I went back to church with my mom just on a whim. And there was someone there who had seen me give some speeches for charity events a couple times and asked me what I was going to do for school. And I told him, no, I'm just working. And he said, his name was, well, I would be respectful. His name was Mr. Jenkins, as I like to call him. And he said, well, I'm willing to bet that if you went to school, you'd like it. And I'm willing to bet that so much that I'm going to pay for it. How could I turn that down? And, you know, I had maybe 4 words with this person. He'd seen me speak, he'd seen me do some other things, but he did it. And I went to community college an hour away from where I lived. And I was also working 2 full-time jobs at the same time. And through all of that, I still got great grades. Somehow I got grades. I could not do that again. I should mention, I don't want to go back to that time. I'm glad I happened and experienced it. Don't want to do it again. And then the next year I thought, oh, this is something I really want to do. And I want to go to a 4-year school. Again, I was speaking at a charity event to raise money for this project that the Lutheran Church had been doing, that I was a part of, to raise money for construction of a high school in Rwanda. And it happened to be at Roanoke College, which is the headquarters of the Lutherans in Virginia anyway. And after I gave it, the president of the school had a dinner at his house. And I was doing my normal, I'm not, fully educated, but I'm smart, kind of show off, kind of networking kind of thing, which, that chip on my shoulder has evolved into being less of a jerk, really. But the table that I just happened to be sitting at, the one that I just happened to choose with, was the admissions office. And after our conversations, they said, we'd really like you to go here. And I thought, that's great, but I don't know how I'm going to afford it. They sent me a financial aid package, and it wasn't good enough. And that was really discouraging, because at that point I thought, well, it's just not going to happen. The bishop and the assistant to the bishop at the time had said, well, we're going to give you a job so they can help you pay for it. And they didn't owe me anything. They didn't, ask me anything. They gave me a job to do it. And that was how I got to school. And that's how I pursued where I eventually went and got my bachelor's degree. This story, my life is really a showcase of like how success isn't just about hard work or recognizing things. It's a lot to do with luck. And there have been plenty of people who are probably smarter than me, who are just in a different set of circumstances in life. They just didn't have the same opportunities, who can work maybe even harder than I can, who can be more passionate, even more of a force for good, who just didn't have those. And the challenge for anyone, I think, who does reach success, and I'm not the most successful person, but I am in a position where I'm paid to follow my dreams. You can't waste that opportunity, because there's a lot of people out there who might be more qualified or who at least absolutely deserve these opportunities, but they don't have them. So that's where I kind of keep those stories in the back of my mind at all times. One, not to become a jerk, and 2, just to recognize that sometimes when people are pursuing something and they aren't paid to do it, that's even more important in a lot of ways. They're just doing it because it's the right thing. And that is something that I just value in life, and that I try to strive for. Kind of a long answer to a short question, but
I love these stories, because I think that all of us who are in a place in our lives where we're doing what we love, it's not because we came up with all these brilliant ideas. It's all the people that showed up in our lives, whether it was luck, right timing, right place, or intentionally someone sought us out, or we sought somebody else out. We can't get to where we are today without all of the people who have led us here, right? And folks that we may not even remember their names.
right. Oh yeah.
So that's just, it reminded me when you were telling me that story to just be so grateful for everyone who's ever seen that light in us and did something to support us.
Right, right. Without asking anything in return. None of these people asked anything in return for me. Just wanted to see me be successful. And that's another opportunity. I know you've talked a lot about paying it forward on this show, and I just think I cannot reinforce and reaffirm why that's so important in life too, because where would I be without it?
Yeah. Well, you kind of shared this already through your storytelling, but are there attributes that are consistent over time with these community builders and champions of change that you really admire and want to highlight?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, well, number one is humility. It's been my experience, especially in working in politics, that a lot of our people with a lot of power tend to have this performative nature where they understand the depth of every issue and problem, and that they have a effective solution to every single issue that's going out there. And you know, I don't think you can be an expert on something if you don't actually experience that problem yourself. And that's okay. It's okay for us to admit that our shortcomings, that we're not going to be the most equipped to affect every single change or every single challenge that we ourselves don't face, but other people face. As long as you're willing to hear people out, as long as you're willing to understand things from a different perspective of your own, that's how you can become effective. And that's something that I certainly hope, and I'm starting to see that more of our leaders embrace. Second one, and arguably the more important, is conviction. And this is a quality that is not embraced enough by our public and elected officials, to the very heightened frustration of public advocates everywhere. Oftentimes, our leaders seem to want to play the politics first in the pursuit of doing the right thing. I have to make these deals. I have to make these agreements. I have to raise money from these areas in order for me to get to the place where I want to be. And that's understandable. I do get it, and I understand that I'm casting stones from something that I'm not around. But boy, I really wish there was a different way where they would do the right thing first and figure out the politics later. And if we had that, I think things would be better. And you know, I do believe that this is changing. We are starting to turn the tide on this, and that's not just because we're electing better people or we're finding better people to be in these offices, but also because there's more people involved in politics that never thought they ever would be now than ever before, at least in my lifetime. You know, you've probably heard this cliche phrase that politics is local. And this is certainly true, but I think a better description is that politics is personal. It's personal to a Virginia school teacher who hasn't really gotten a raise in 10 years and yet still decides to teach in schools and buildings that are falling apart. It's personal to someone who can barely afford food because they have to pay their medical bills off for an illness that they had no control over getting. And it's personal for anyone who's been targeted just because of the way that they look, who they happen to love, or the way that they are. And I think anyone involved in causes that are trying to make people's lives better represents humility and conviction in this way. And I think that that's one step in the right direction, but where we really need to be going is demanding the same kind of qualities from our leaders. And if we do that, then maybe politics can become about people.
I thought that's what it was supposed to be for all along. I'm kidding.
Yep, that's a concept for it.
I absolutely agree with you for sure on that. So let's now talk about you and your gifts, your talents, your treasures. What causes, movements, initiatives, we already know because of the context of what you've already shared where your passion is, but are there certain organizations or initiatives or movements that you want to highlight that you really want to help advance their mission forward?
Sure. So, I mean, education is a big one for me. The National Education Association and, well, really the Virginia Education Association are doing great work. I think you're seeing this all over the country, that there's a lot of local groups that are working on education. Here in Richmond, we have the Support Our Schools group, which I've had the pleasure to work alongside in some capacity. This is the thing I told at the workshop that got me choked up, but to paraphrase, it's essentially, you know, in Virginia, we have a lot of disparities in our school system, at no fault of their teachers. It's just because we've just not done right by them on our political system. And our teachers in Richmond, I remember they had like these 5 demands. These are people who struggle to pay for bills a lot of times and really are kind of pigeonholed into a trapped income, or we're not getting a raise. And I remember asking them, like, of all these 5 demands, which, if you could only get one, what would it be? And I was expecting it to be, we need a raise. And instead they said, we need more support staff because that's what's best for our kids. Students, but our kids. And it takes a special kind of person to be a teacher. And they're, you know, the most inspiring thing about them is that they're doing what they can because they can. And I just hope, you know, they're the reason that I started doing these advocacy trainings and developing like informational materials, not because I have all the answers. I've already discussed why I can't. But they are, well, the idea is just to help them maybe get across the finish line a little bit faster. So education, that's a big one. Obviously, I work for the Sierra Club, which is a great cause and organization to support, not just because you know, it helps support staffers like myself, but also climate is a existential threat. Everyone's thinking about it. I just read an article just this morning about how people in my generation kind of have this cloud looming over us of like, are we actually going to be able to have a full life if things keep going in the direction that they are? It's really not overselling it to say that the fate of the world's in our hands and we got to do better. Because if we don't, all these other issues that I was describing before, they're going to get worse. But there's a point of pride in this movement, and especially since the Sierra Club itself, we know that this has to be a problem that we all address together. Because of that, we have to support justice causes in other avenues too, even if it doesn't seem like a clear overlap between what we do. Again, we want to make sure the tent is as wide as possible. And so we can't ask for people's help unless we're willing to help them themselves. So on that note, it's a point of pride for me for 2 reasons. One, there's a diversity of people who are working on this. And it's just great to hear from different folks and how they experience different things and how they believe that we can have a better tomorrow. But the other side of it is, if we can overcome this existential threat, because it is, I mean, it's truly existential, then I don't really think there's a challenge that's beyond conquering. We can do anything. So while we support the fight for all of those things, I just think if we get to the finish line on this one, then really there's a lot more hope for any other challenge that we end up facing. And that's what's the point of pride. I mean, that's the point of pride for me, is being in social justice and environmental justice. I care about, you know, living in this country, not because of the economy we've cultivated, the art system we've created, or the wars that we've won. It's the challenges we've been able to overcome together. And we've got to get more on the books. That's where we are right now. So the Sierra Club, short answer, is a great one. Other environmental organizations. I just encourage anyone to look into these things and really support what they can, whether it's signing a petition, which I've come to find, especially if we're working here, those really do work, signing up for action alerts, but also giving what they can if they can. There really is some place for everyone here.
Well, I think the key thing that you were stating or underscoring here is that it's about togetherness. It's the rapid exponential impact we have to make, and we can't do that in silos. We can't do that with multiple hubs trying to do it. We have to come together. We have to pull together all of our resources, and some of the things that may not necessarily feel like they are completely in alignment or on parallel tracks, they all work together as a whole. So when this isn't functioning, then the whole ecosystem is not going to help to accelerate what we need to do to completely turn the tide around here on the ship, you know, and it has to happen fast. So I can appreciate exactly what you're saying. And it's going to take all of us, light workers, change agents, community builders, you know, civic leaders, business leaders, spiritual practitioners, to come together and to really understand that we are not leaving this planet one or the other. Like we can't do this without each other.
Yeah, I couldn't have put it better myself. I think we can't afford to raise the price of admission for people who can and can't work in this sphere. And again, it really boils down for me of, like, you know, things that damage the planet also hurt people's lives. when we're using and relying on dirty energy, that is hurting the surrounding communities. I mean, there's a reason that people who live close to power plants have higher health risks than other comparable residencies and communities. So we got to think about that from the bottom up level, and realize that, as you said, in such a great way, we're in this together. And if we fail, we're going to fail together.
Well, speaking of failing and hope and tragedies and triumphs,
right?
Life is a roller coaster ride. And so when you have had your dips, is there a quote, philosophy, motto, anything that you can share with us that helps to ground you and move you forward?
Is it cheating to do two?
No cheating.
All right. Good. Well, thank you. I appreciate you being flexible. So there's two. First one is all I know is that we have to try. That's what life is. We try. We push back against the darkness just a little. I don't know who wrote that. I think it might be anonymous.
Beautiful.
But I think that's a very poetic way to put it. And then the second one is fear is always with us, but we just don't have time for it. Not now.
Yeah. Well, I recently went to a workshop, and it was such a beautiful way of accepting or appreciating fear. Fear is a tap on our shoulder. Just a reminder that there's something that we have to do. There's something that we have to address today. It shouldn't cripple us. It should serve as a reminder that we got to keep on, keeping on, keep going, keep moving forward, keep trying to break down these barriers and solve these big global issues that seem so insurmountable. But if we keep trying, and if we do it together, one by one, hopefully we can check off those boxes of solving the world's problems.
And we will. I feel like I've had a bit of an emotional streak on this, but I truly believe we will. I want to, really implement that positivity.
Absolutely.
I believe it done brilliantly as well.
I believe it as well. Okay. Last question for you is, when you imagine this better world, this world that we're going to save and recreate and redesign, what would make it a better world through your eyes?
It's just recognizing that everybody has a voice and making sure that everybody has a platform. That humility, that conviction that I was talking about earlier. It's always disheartening to see when people are pushed out of the decision-making process, which happens way more often than a lot of people realize, and it happens from both because both parties tend to do it. But when the people realize that they have the real power, because there is a difference between us and lobbyists and lawmakers and executive branch, elected officials and regulatory companies. There's more of us than there are of them. A better world looks like the fact that we appreciate every single person, regardless of where they come from, has stake in this, and if they're willing to try, not because they're paid to do this, but because it's the right thing, that's where change is going to come. And that's how we get to a better future. And my hope is that with the things that I try to do, whether in my professional life or through my passion projects, that people realize that, because I'm not an expert. I can't tell people what to say or what to believe or what to think or what to do. I just want to help them I just want to give them, one, a context in which they can navigate through these things, and two, hope to just empower them just a little bit more. Give them the idea that you are worthy, you are valuable, and no matter what anyone says, you deserve to be here.
Tim, thank you for keeping the faith.
I really don't have any other option.
Thank you for keeping the faith.
Thank you.
How can our community best support you right now personally?
So, again, on the professional level, if you want to find out more information about the things that we're directly involved in, the sierraclub.org/Virginia is a great way to see a lot of the things that we're dealing with. Again, all of our issues tend to be people-centered. The idea, exactly what I'm saying, is like we want to get people who are actually affected by these issues in front of the decision makers and amplify their voices. That's the causes that people support when they're supporting the Sierra Club and getting involved with the Sierra Club Virginia chapter especially. So that's a great way to see what we're doing. And there's plenty of ways that, whether it's signing a petition or signing up for updates, there's plenty of ways to do that. You can follow me on social media. I have the best one is Twitter, and my handle is pretty simple. It's at Tim Cywinski. So I don't think there's a lot of us, so it should be pretty easy to find me. And really this one, I cannot stress enough, vote, please vote. I know that's not always the easiest thing based off existing policies in some places, but the only way we're going to be able to change the narrative is if people believe in the power of their voices again, because it does matter. And the more people voting, more the political dynamics shift, and the more our leaders have to recognize that in order for them to be comfortable with in their seats, in order for them to retain power, is if they actually listen to us, not the people who have more money, but the people who can cast more ballots. And that's always going to be us as long as people do it. So that's for me on a personal level, but it's also for anyone who just needs to. And quick reminder, Virginia has an election this year, November 5th. It's every lawmaker in Virginia's Congress or General Assembly is up for re-election. So it's even more important to vote in this one, because that's really going to dictate how this state is going to be able to be better or worse in the next 10 years. So yeah, I know those are kind of corny, but I don't really know how else to be.
Not corny at all. Very, very thoughtful. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time, for your passion, for your energy. Thank you for educating us today too on some things. I'm sure I learned a lot, and I know that our community, who also very much care about the social impact they're creating, appreciates all of your energy and your time that you spend doing what you do. Thank you again for being a part of our initiative.
I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for giving platform to so many people who are more impressive than I am, but I really do appreciate to be amongst the ranks of everyone else as well. So thank you. I don't know how much you get thanked enough, but it's not enough. So
thank you, Tim. I appreciate you. And you are on top of the list. So there's no comparison. We all have a place in this world, and you are doing your part. So thank you. For those that are watching, please remember, as I'm reminding Tim of how amazing and miraculous he is, I would like to please ask you to nominate yourself and others in your community who's making a huge difference. And whether you think it's small or not, it's changing someone's life. It's big. And so please nominate yourself. Visit us at nebula.soarcommunitynetwork.com. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.